VR gloves. We know about its existence, we know it's going to come, but when and what does it feel like? Oculus predicted it will probably take 10 years before we'll have useful haptic hands in some form, but I think we might be closer than they think. Hi everyone, my name is Cass, and in today's Dive into VR episodes we are introducing the Manus VR gloves, which are compatible with SteamVR games and applications since they use the VIVE trackers and the VIVE base stations. Let's dive straight in, but first subscribe if you haven't yet to stay up to date with all of our videos like this one. And now, join me beyond reality. This is what Michael Abrash, Oculus's chief scientist, predicted during the Oculus Connect 5 keynote.
Only thing that I thought could fully displace touch-style controllers was the ability to use your hands directly, complete with haptics, to interact with objects in the virtual world. And that I didn't think that that would happen in the next 5 years, that in fact, it wasn't even on the distant horizon. I still don't think it'll happen in the next 4 years, but something interesting may in fact be on the distant horizon. This is definitely a deep research problem right now, but here's a video of one experiment. I predict the first time you get to use your hands with haptics in VR will be as much of a revelation as the first time that you put on a VR headset. Because that feedback loop from head motion to proper parallax is what creates strong presence in VR today, and I believe that that feedback loop from motor control to haptics can be equally powerful. So I don't have a 4-year prediction for haptic hands, but I'll make the farthest out prediction I've ever made and say that I believe that we'll have useful haptic hands in some form within 10 years.
So he believes in haptic VR gloves, but he says unuseful implementation could take a while. Let me know in the comments what your predictions will be after watching this video. So, a couple of days ago, Chary and I visited VR Days, which is a VR event in the Netherlands, and over there, Manus VR showcased her latest VR gloves, the Manus Prime Haptic. Last year, we also went to VR Days and tried out a developer kit of the gloves. The ones we tried now are the finalized version and is compatible with the VIVE trackers, and so you could use these with your HTC VIVE or Valve Index setup at home. Heck, during the demo I was even wearing the Valve Index. But first, you might want to know what VR gloves are and why you would want it. VR gloves are just what you think it is. They are gloves, but by wearing them, they can track your fingers and hand movements inside the VR game or experience. It allows for very intuitive interaction. With this, there is no more need for an explanation on what buttons to press to grab an item. You will just do whatever you would do in real life. Now you might be thinking, the Oculus Quest is getting hand tracking, so why would I still need gloves? Well, with the Oculus Quest hand tracking, you don't get any feedback when you interact with objects in a game. So for example, when you try to poke a friend's avatar inside the game, you're only poking air in real life, and so you won't actually feel anything. And that is less immersive than with these gloves. Because with these gloves, you can get haptic feedback, so you'll feel vibrations on your hand and fingers, making it feel like you are touching something or picking something up. So, what do the Manus VR gloves look like and how does it work? There are a couple of different VR gloves that you can find online, but these Manus VR gloves I tried are different because they are wireless and are one of the few that are compatible with SteamVR headsets since they use VIVE trackers. Here are the gloves that I tried, the Manus Prime Haptic. They are gloves made of polyester, so they feel comfortable like gloves you would use to work out in. A VIVE tracker sits on the back of your hand, which allows for the positional tracking. So the VIVE trackers tell where your hands are. The glove itself has flex sensors inside that measures the amount of deflection or bending. So the gloves can tell what your hands are doing. Little programmable vibration motors are attached to each finger that connects to a module below the tracker with some cables. The vibrational motors are what give the haptic feedback. There is an extra sensor for the thumbs that the other fingers do not have. This sensor is an inertial measurement unit, in short IMU, which is a sensor that can measure more than the flex sensors, like rotational tracking. Lastly, the gloves are tightened on your wrist using a Velcro hook and loop. While you're watching this video, please leave a like if you found it interesting so far. Now let me tell you what I tried during the demo and what it feels like. Manus VR has developed a dashboard and driver for the gloves, which is what you can see on the screen right now. Using that, the first thing they had to do was to calibrate the gloves with my hands. The software measured how hard the vibration motor should vibrate to make the whole texture of the gloves vibrate with it. I then had to make a couple of hand gestures to finish calibration. This all went very smoothly. As you can see, the gloves were a bit big for me, so there was a possibility that I could not feel the highest vibration level since my fingertips didn't reach out of the gloves. They do have smaller gloves too, but unfortunately they didn't bring them. The Manus VR software is what receives the tracking data and sends it to whatever game or app you are in. This software has to run next to SteamVR to make it work. After calibration, they handed me a Valve Index and I went into a haptic demo. In the demo, there was an unassembled engine in front of me. At the left side, I saw a floating component that I needed to grab and attach to the right spot of the engine. Of course, for testing purposes, the first thing I did was poking the stuff around me. So I gave the component a couple of pokes and I felt the vibration on the right fingertip. It felt different per object too. The vibration seemed to kind of simulate the weight of different objects. I could also grab the objects in different ways, like pinching my index finger and thumb together. And when I tried to shake an object in my hand, I felt realistic feedback too. I also tried tapping the engine softly and then harder, and depending on how much force I used, the vibration level changed as well. The finger tracking was accurate, but only bending the fingers was measured, so not gestures like this because of the missing IMU. However, the thumbs did have an IMU, so all movements with the thumb like this was tracked. I didn't notice any latency either, even though the developers say that there is a latency of about 5 milliseconds, but that is almost nothing. These gloves should last up to 3 to 5 hours of extensive use. It was an interesting experience. These VR haptic gloves made it all more realistic to me. This is positively different than hand tracking without gloves. Touching objects without haptic feedback at all just feels somewhat awkward to me. The only thing that was missing from these VR gloves would be resistance force. That is what would add even more realism, since that could make you feel like you are holding an object or feel different materials. I actually tried a VR glove with force resistance at VR days, but that will be for a new video, so stay tuned for that one. Alright. I think I just made an engine. Oh, whoa. Okay, what happens now? Oh, what? Did you just hit me? Oh, it was
How was it?
That was cool.
Yeah, right?
Especially the last part.
Yeah. No, that was me hitting you.
Oh, it was you hitting me. I was like, okay. But now you might want to know, what are the chances for you to try this out at home? Manus VR started the company in 2014 to provide the consumer market with VR gloves. However, in 2017, they decided to focus on businesses. That is unfortunate for us because, well, enterprise products are expensive. The Manus Prime haptic gloves go for about 5,000 euros. They have other versions of these gloves too that range from 3,000 to 4,000 euros. That might not be expensive for businesses, but yes, that is way too expensive for us consumers or gamers. But it's very awesome to see the potential of these gloves. Currently, these VR gloves are used worldwide for motion capture, prototyping, robotics, and educational VR apps. Manus VR has clients like NASA who uses their gloves to give their employees virtual training, which can significantly reduce costs for companies like them. VR arcade owners might like to know that these gloves are also compatible with any tracking solution that gives the location of the hand. The gloves are tested with OptiTrack, Vicon, Xsense, FaceSpace, and what you saw in this video, SteamVR tracking. So yes, we won't be using this at home for gaming just yet, but by seeing this, I believe that it won't be 10 more years before we see useful consumer gloves, and I cannot wait for that moment to come. What are your predictions for VR gloves? Let us know in the comments. And thanks to VR Days for letting us film at their event and Manus VR for showing their product and demo. I will be posting more videos like this one on what we have seen during VR Days, and some of these things are pretty intriguing, so don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet to stay up to date. A special thanks goes to our right-hand patrons, and a shout out goes to Art Amin and his Patreon page. Another shout out goes to Backstone VR and his VR YouTube channel. Everyone, see you all in the next video, and as always, VR on games and applications. Posting more videos like this one on the channel from what we blah blah.